Welcome back. You're listening to Rockland Talk Radio. We're produced by Sharc Creative and made possible by Entergy, Indian Point Energy Center, promising to keep the lights on through April of 2021. And this is our first episode of Rockland Talk Radio. And we've got a very special guest in a very special location, probably the most unique location I've ever been to in my entire life. We have Paul Tappenden here. This is the Foragers Hour. Paul is a man with many hats. Well, he only has one hat. He's got two hats. Okay, I stand corrected. He's got two hats. But he's a man of many hats, a forager, an artist, an herbalist. He plays the saxophone, I believe, probably a few other instruments. You do many things, Paul. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Let me see about myself. Well, I guess beginning many moons ago, I developed an interest in just the whole art of survival. I was traveling a lot. I was in South America, and a friend and I spent a year traveling around and visiting different places, living very simply, very rough. And what we noticed along the way was how people were able to survive regardless of the conditions where they were living. While we were living in amongst the natives in South America, we did notice how, like for instance, in one place we were living in the jungle on a river where the only access to this village was by river and in dugout canoes. So they weren't able to bring anything in, very few things. Everything that they got, their medicines, their food, everything came from the surroundings, from the forest. And I found that to be fascinating. So I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to learn all these aspects of survival.
What year was this? How old were you whenever you were in South
That was 1976. I was in my early 20s. And so after my travels were over, I ended up in New York. And one of the first things I did when I got here was I bought myself some books on plants and started learning about all the local flora and fauna.
I think I'm looking at them now. You guys out at home can't see them, but
yeah, I have quite a library,
an array of
there
collection
that I've gathered over the years. So I started just exploring with plants and experimenting, and finally I started incorporating them into our diet and started using them medicinally, and they became more and more important in my life until about 10, 12 years ago, I started teaching what I know to others. And it kind of caught on because now, 12 years later, I've got a big following of people all over the world who come to my page every day to see what I'm writing about. And hopefully we'll hear this broadcast or see this broadcast, and we'll take it from there. Yeah.
What would you say? That's amazing. I don't even know if I knew that. I met Paul a year ago when I moved to New York, and I don't even know if I knew about his South America coming too. But I guess my question would be, whenever you started discovering all these new foods and herbal medicines and medicinal purposes from the earth, which one really struck a chord with you? Was it the food, the medicine, or was it just a combination of all of them? Was there something that really, bam, this just hit the tone with you and said, this is what I want to do?
Well, the funny thing is that I first started studying plants because I wanted to be able to use them as food. And so that was really my main concentration. But I didn't really start using them as food. I guess we for at least 10 years there, we did use them as medicine because they had a lot of medicinal uses. So we used them as food. It came a lot more slowly and developed a lot more slowly. Now, of course, we use them quite commonly. But so in the medicinal end of things, I think that what really appealed to me, what struck me, was a plant called mugwort. And my reason for loving mugwort the way I did was because at the time I was suffering a lot from nighttime leg cramps, and it was horrendous. It really was not nice at all. I tried all kinds of different cures and different things, and nothing seemed to work. And then I read about mugwort, and I thought, I don't know, let me give it a try. And the first time I used it, I created a big pot of tea and I poured it into a bath and filled it up with hot water and I laid in it. And I tell you, after that I felt like Jello. I felt wonderful. I slept the night. Oh, it was amazing. But it was very time consuming and messy. So
I can imagine a bath full of mugwort, which I believe we have hanging behind us somewhere.
So I had to do it another way. So in the end, what I did was I started making an infused oil out of the plant. And that has done the trick ever since. I'm never without it. I have it all the time. I have it up on my shelves here. I have more of it up there. I have it upstairs. I make sure I've got plenty of mugwort oil, or I turn it into salve also. And whenever I feel any tinges of cramping coming on, I put the mugwort on and it solves the problem.
Okay. For our listeners back, around the Westchester, Rockland, all the areas we got listeners in. Let's so you're telling us about South America. Clearly, we're not in South America. Where can you find mugwort? Where's a common place you can find?
Well, mugwort is probably one of the most common weeds that are growing in Rockland County. There are actually fields full of mugwort. The thing is to be able to recognize the plant, I mean, the point is it's everywhere. It really is everywhere. It's in my front yard. I mean, people are pulling it up and trying to get rid of it all over the place because it's pesky. It does take over in the end. But as I say, it's so medicinal that we need to be using it more than we are. There's a lot more uses for it than just the muscle cramps, there is with so many of these plants. And that's what I'm discovering. I mean, I've spent years, exploring, experimenting, reading, and trying to find out as much as I can. And I have to tell you, I'm constantly being amazed and bemused by what these plants can do. Not from just what I'm reading about them, And I mean, there are lots of clinical trials and things going on right now that are proving that so much of what we believed and used for thousands of years is really functional. It works, and they're proving as to reasons why these things are working. And I still think it's magic, personally.
The magical plants.
Yeah. Because every time I think to myself, how does this do this? How does this happen? It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I actually have personal experience from this. So a couple months ago, I pulled, I believe it was an SI joint, which is kind of located in your lower hip. And I couldn't even bring this leg up to here without shooting excruciating pain. So I visited Dr. Paul, of course, Mr. Rockland Forager, and he gave me the medicine I needed. He gave me what was called pokeberries, and I ate one of those a day for about 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I'm actually still eating them now because I hurt myself again snowboarding. But I was trying to stretch and do so many physical therapy maneuvers, which were helping. But after trying his treatments of pokeberries, and I believe it was a comfrey oil along with comfrey cream. Yeah. I have a comfrey cream along with comfrey oil, which you made. Within 4 days, I couldn't believe the difference. So this guy definitely knows what he's talking about. His research and his practice for many years is proving living patient right here.
Well, that's the thing is, you can do all the reading you like, but
it's about using it and experimenting.
Yeah, practical experience is it. And this, I'm now writing my second book, and I've got several others on the go. And these books are not developed from research. It's not like I've gone and I've researched all these things and now I'm rehashing it.
Yeah.
These are books that are based on my absolute practical experience as to whether or not these. I might be fooling myself into believing that these things are working. It may be some kind of
magic trickery.
Yes, but it works. Yeah. So
it definitely does.
That's just it. If it works, it works. That's all there is to it.
And you're not the only tried and true person. There's many herbalists out there that do not disagree with you. And for those of you interested listening, the book, if you would like to purchase it, you can find it at rocklandforager.com. And that's where you go. You can find Paul's blog there, his info. He's got a gallery of paintings, some photos.
Of course, you can also purchase the sweatshirt.
And also, yes, he's got a sweatshirt here that says "Got Weeds," which, because the whole thing I've learned from Paul is that everything we pull out of our yards, everything that we consider to be a pest to keeping our lawn from looking pretty, is something that can benefit us. I went on a walk with Paul, and I ate more off of the ground, more plants off of the ground and off of different bushes and trees that I've ever had in my entire life. And it was flavors I've never experienced. So there's a world out there.
That's another great thing about these wild plants as food, is that there are so many flavors out there that we're not used to experiencing. And I very often make these dishes and people eat them and say, wow, this is amazing. What did you use in this? What is it? But because it's something they hadn't tried before, and now it's presented to them, and because it helps that I've had a training in gourmet cooking, so I've combined those two skills together to be able to do. I've catered a lot of events over the years for different people, but wild food. It's always been wild food events.
Yeah.
And I've catered up to 36. Yeah, 36 people I've catered for. Just using wild foods, and I'll tell you, I'll never do it again. Yeah, because it is. Can you imagine 36 people? It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I went with you to harvest watercress one day, and it took an hour just to clean up enough for a day's worth of watercress, and then we went and got the milkweed pods. I know the milkweed pods is probably not a very term anyone that is listening is used to hearing unless you are already a follower of Paul, but we're going to get into those one day. But it's almost like, I think it's part of the okra family, you could almost say.
Yeah, it isn't part of that family, but it's certainly, it's like it's like okra, yeah.
They should be part of the same family.
Yeah, I know.
We picked the pods off of the plant, and I went home and cooked them, and man, a little butter and salt, delicious.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really delicious foods that we've kind of lost along the way. Well, a lot of them are not practical either, so people don't bother with them, but the fact of the matter is that they might not be practical, but some of them are really delicious and are worth taking the effort and taking the time. I love gathering wild berries and wild nuts, and the great thing about those is that that they haven't been messed with. They
tried and true from the source.
Yeah, straight out of nature. Yeah. And usually delicious for it. I mean, a lot of the fruits that we get are picked too early and allowed to ripen on the backs of trucks, Yeah.
Nothing beats a fresh picked blueberry.
Taken at the peak of its ripeness, oh man, and that's what foraging is a lot about. That it's about enjoying the whole vastness that nature has to offer. I mean, mushrooms, oh my God, there's some amazing mushrooms out there that most people will walk by because they have no idea what they are. Oh, yeah. And
I'm guilty of that until you came over one day and showed me I had a beautiful mushroom in my yard.
Yeah.
Came home and cooked it.
No, I mean, that's the point, is that there are some really, gourmet items that are all around us, but we don't know how to recognize them.
Yep, and that's what you're here for.
And that's what I'm here for. I try to keep passing this information along. And I've had Facebook followers for the past, as I say, 12 years, and I have been giving this information away. I've charged nothing to do it. However, if anybody cares to contribute, can certainly buy my book, as I say. You'll get a lot out of it, because people have been. A lot of people have been telling me they've using it a lot.
I own 2 copies.
There you go.
Well, folks, this has been Paul Tappenden, the Rockland Forager, the man, the myth, the legend, and we are in his so-called hobbit hole, which is where we are. And we're going to dive so much deeper into what's behind us, above us, behind the camera even. No, just kidding. There's only a camera back there. But we are going to dive into everything behind us, the oils, the salves, the processes for making these remedies, how he uses them, where to find them, what seasons to pick them. There's so much information, and we couldn't possibly cover it in one session. So this is the beginning of a lot of information that is going to be coming out in both an audio and video format. And Paul, anything you would like to leave our listeners with? Any one wise foraging word of advice?
I would say that we're in a... Sorry. I should be holding my microphone up here. I would say that we are in a very questionable, unusual age to be living in, and that nothing is certain. The only thing that can be certain in your life is how you personally can conduct your life and survive and succeed. Learning how to live from the wild is a very, very useful skill to have, and it will get you through a lot. I'm telling you, it has got me through life like I cannot I will be explaining, but it's going to take about a year to do it.
Well, you heard it, folks. Learn the wild foods, learn Mother Nature. Thank you for listening. This is Rockland Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative and made possible by Entergy, Indian Point Energy Center, who promised to keep the lights on through April of 2021. And just look for us next week. You can find us on YouTube at Sharc Creative or at rocklandtalkradio.com. That site will be coming soon. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good one.